Very quickly, van der Leyen loses vaccine contract transparency case in the EU court. This happened a few days ago, and I thought, well, that's interesting, don't you think? And so reported yesterday, and they want to lock her up. And why does she need the vaccine transparency case? Why did she need that? To keep information from people? I think this was known, but anyway, Robert says Ursula von der Leyen is married to the German doctor Heiko von der Leyen, who is director of this place, which is owned by Pfizer, the same company that Ursula signed a $71 billion euro contract with to buy an astronomical 4.6 billion doses, 10 per citizen, of useless, worthless, damaging gene therapy, right? So that's weird. Can you imagine if like Ursula von der Leyen was married to like a person who owned like Coca-Cola, and she signed a contract to buy $70 billion euros worth of Coke, and like everybody got 100 cases, something like that. Everybody, and like, do you think people would be mad? Do you think like if they, because it's really hard to quantify the product purchased when it's a vaccine. They're selling safety, right? Safety is the product, not the vaccine itself. But if you take that away, if you take that safety kind of thing away and understand that the product itself is actually just the product itself, like here's your Coke, right? This is what we paid for. It's a can of Coke, right? It's a gene therapy shot of nanoparticles and spike proteins. That's what we paid. That's what we're paid for. Do you think people would be more upset or less upset with the Coke? Less upset because they could actually use it? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't use the Coke either. I mean, they're a morally bankrupt company. It's just an example that jumped out of the top of my head. But fundamentally, I think people would be more upset because they understand quantifiably what it is, but also less upset if they got the Coke because they could use it. I digress. David says, this guy is saying during the pandemic, I'll just let him play it. This is what they did. This is what they did.
I was deplatformed from Facebook, and well, not Facebook. I was kind of like put on bans on Facebook, YouTube, but completely kicked off Twitter, the first Twitter, and then I eventually submitted a subject access request to the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, which is part of the government, and it turned out that I'd been monitored by the Counter Disinformation Unit, and the Counter Disinformation Unit, which is an organisation which is run by the government, was working in liaison with the Rapid Response Unit, and it turned out that the intelligence agencies, so MI5, MI6, were working in liaison with the Counter Disinformation Unit and the Rapid Response Unit. There was something called the Psychological Nudge Unit, which was employed in order to steer public opinion. So all of that stuff that you were talking about at the beginning in terms of mass formation psychosis, this wasn't an organic kind of process. There were lots of mechanisms in place as well, something called the 77th Brigade, which is a unit of the British Army monitoring people online. So, and also a unit of the RAF as well, that's Royal Air Force. So serious organisations which were traditionally and previously were all eyes on traditional terrorists like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, etc. Suddenly we're looking at the domestic population and silencing debate.
Yeah, that's all they want to do is silence debate. It's absolutely bonkers. And they're hoping that they can get away with it and continue to do it because it's the only way that the invasion that they're quarterbacking is going to work. So Order 66, I talked about this. I can't believe that we're already 45 minutes into the show. Like, I think we have another 45 minutes to go. I'll try and be quick. But here's Order 66. This guy is telling everybody, people in Ireland, migrants specifically, to attack the Irish and take their homes and houses and cars. Homes, cars, and everything else. Here we go.
So the dirty racist Dubliners strikes again in Coolock. They're displacing migrants today, setting things on fire as usual because they're savages and they don't have respect for the country. So they burn things when they don't get their own way. So I'm telling all migrants, go and take their houses, bro. Go and take their fucking houses, take their cars, take everything they own. Who do they think they are displacing people in this world? This is not your world. The world is not Ireland. All right, the world is not all about Irish. It's not your world. Migrants go and take their houses and take their cars and take.
He's talking about taking Irish houses, right? And like, it's not your world. It's not about Ireland, but it is in Ireland, though. This guy's delusional. So, but these delusional people believe that they deserve this. That it's their right. That the things that you worked for are theirs because they want them and they're here now. And well, the world is demanding it, and that's that. So the other day, police were trying to crack down on cooling. What was the name of it? Coolock. And the whole town showed up and said no, but there's not enough. There's not enough of them, but still, they're all marching against this. So there you go. They're saying no. Will it be effective? I don't know. Jagmeet Singh says Liberals and Conservatives stack the deck by designing the housing system for rich investors and corporate landlords. Weird, right? Here's a landlord. Here's a landlord from Ontario, okay, on Reddit saying this is what's happening in my unit right now. The tenant is wasting hot water all overnight. I have a tenant who did not pay the rent for half a year. Now I'm waiting for the eviction order. But the tenant turned on water and kept hot water flowing all day. He laughed at me and wanted me to be charged tons of water. Another tenant was left no hot water to use at all because both units use the same hot water tank. What should I do? No one, not the police or LBT legal aid, can help me on this. Also, Canadian government LBT just protects some disgusting things but leave ordinary hardworking people in a dangerous and awful situation. My goodness, right? Like, and if this guy went into the unit and like started trying to remove this guy, or if he was physical with him, like get out, change the locks, he would be in the wrong. Like there would be a court order to change it back and allow this person who should be evicted and not paying rent to allow them back in, and probably with a penalty for the landlord. Like, I think I'd still do it. I think I'd still put the lock on the door and say no, and then I'm not paying it. And you can put me in jail. F it. He's not paid me. Like, you can get it from him. You can get it from the rent that he owes me. Forget that. So like, I'd wait until he left, and if he didn't leave, I'd figure out a way to make him leave. Grocery shopping, something. I'd change the locks, and then I'd be standing there watching him, and I wouldn't say anything. He may engage with me and whatever, but if he attacks me, I'd protect myself. But I'd stand there and watch him suffer, unable to get into the house, and when he got mad, whatever happens would happen, right? Like, goodness gracious me. I'd make sure people were filming. I'd make sure I had a plan, maybe a net, comically scoop him up after he's been aggressive. But I don't think I'd tolerate it. I wouldn't do it. And which is why I'm not a landlord, thank goodness. But unbelievable. The landlords, the laws are not stacked in favor of landlords, despite Jagmeet Singh's rhetoric. Okay, he says the system works for them, works great for them. Do you think it works great for them, Jagmeet Singh? Are you kidding me? But you pay the price. Jagmeet Singh is changing the rules to crack down on rent gouging so you can afford a place to call home. Jagmeet Singh is one of the people protecting the people who are doing this, right? So nah, that's a big no for me, dog. Here is Arrive Scam. Arrive Scam is big news. Remember the two Randys, Randy Boissonnault and his other Randy person who works in his business that has liaisons with MPs, and not Randy, but other MPs, so Randy doesn't have to file conflict of interest, anything. You know that? Yeah. Turns out there's no other Randy. Here's Michael Barrett highlighting that.
How many people work for Global Health Imports? What's the total staff complement?
121.
How many are named Randy?
Global Health Imports, there was one up until September 2021, Randy Boissonnault.
How many people work for Global Health Imports?
Holy smoke. Global News is reporting this. Boissonnault, former business partner, claims autocorrect to blame for Randy text messages. Liberal Cabinet Minister Boissonnault, former business partner, stunned MPs Wednesday by claiming multiple text messages referring to business dealings with Randy were the result of an autocorrect error. The House of Commons Ethics Committee is probing Boissonnault's relationship with Global Health Imports, a company he co-founded with Edmonton entrepreneur Stephen Anderson before he was re-elected as a Liberal MP in 2021. Global News reports that Anderson allegedly sent a series of text messages referring to a partner named Randy in September 22 after Boissonnault was sworn in as a Liberal cabinet minister, and a year after he said he ceased active involvement with the company. Boissonnault held shares in GHI, which he was legally allowed to do until disposing of them 2 weeks ago. Ha! I'm not guilty. I just wanted to get rid of those shares right now. Conflict of interest laws prohibit elected officials from operating or managing private businesses while in office. That's pretty wild. I didn't know that. I mean, it's a good idea, but at the same time, I didn't know you were prohibited from engaging in any of that. Operating or managing private businesses. Can you work in a private business as long as it's not yours? I mean, moonlighting, right? That's not great. Interesting. Back to, like, would doing a YouTube channel be counting as a business? right? Would it depend on the other tangential things you do with the YouTube channel? Because like the YouTube channel is just a bit, or an Instagram account. Could you run an Instagram account that is a business? It's interesting, right? Not an Instagram account to support a business, but the Instagram account itself as the business. No? Weird. Back to this. Conflict of interest laws prohibit, a series of text messages from Anderson between September 6 and September 8, 22 reference a business partner named Randy working with GHI and suggested that Randy was working out of a Vancouver office that day. With regards to the infamous text messages featured by Global News Story, the other Randy, I hope members of the committee can understand that this was an unfortunate autocorrect suggestion, Anderson told MPs. Opposition MPs were not buying Anderson's autocorrect explanation, at times openly accusing him of lying and laughing during his testimony. Well, when you say something laughable, and you get laughed at, you shouldn't be surprised, I think. So Danielle Smith and the premiers were at a premiers meeting yesterday. I recorded some of it, and one of the things that came out of it was Legault said that Quebec gets money, 750, I can't remember what it was, but I think it was in the ballpark of 750 somethings. I don't want to say million because that sounds high, but 750,000 doesn't sound like enough. So I'm not sure exactly how much Quebec gets, but Quebec gets equalization payments as well as payments for migrants. And he said other provinces want to take more migrants, but they want money from Ottawa in order to do that, like Quebec gets, and maybe that would be an incentive. And I find that hard to believe because one of the things that he also said during that little series was that we don't have the housing, we don't have the healthcare, we don't have the schooling, we don't have the capacity. It's not about money, but it's about these other things that we don't have and the money doesn't create fast enough. And so the other premiers he was referring to who want to take more migrants in, unnamed, don't know who they are. I find, again, that's absolutely bonkers to me that these premiers are interested in more rapidly increasing our population in the face of all the problems that's obviously causing. And, nobody seems to care is not the right word because they frame it as if they are caring by, increasing the economic activity and all this other stuff. They care and, they care so much. But if you cared about people having access to affordable housing or affordable food, et cetera, then you'd address the issues that were causing those problems in the first place, and they're not. They're just trying to make an argument that, everybody really likes what we're doing and we're trying to help migrants and we're so helpful here in Canada, blah 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 blah. And it's such bullshit. I'm using bullshit a lot today, but everything that we're experiencing is caked with it, and I'm so sick of it. It's unbelievable. I was looking for the tweet, but I can't find it. It's very frustrating because sometimes my tweets, just like my videos specifically, just disappear on Twitter. And there's no way on YouTube. You can go like all of my video uploads and you can see all of everything and how many views they got and all the rest of it, analytics and all that. On X, Twitter, there's not any of that. So, and my videos just disappear, like they're just gone. So that's weird. Democracy Watch says Supreme Court of Canada can be bribed. Excuse me. They say Supreme Court of Canada must disclose this, as a former RV Sussex ruling said in a rejected judge's claim that nothing wrong was done behind closed doors. Justice should not only be done, but should manifestly and undoubtedly be seen to be done. So the National Post is reporting someone paid for a bust of Chief Justice Richard Wagner. The Supreme Court won't say who. So, bribery's back on the menu, boys. Yay. Here's this lovely bust of you. Wouldn't that be great if my charges disappeared? The Equidia letter says Liberals spent $9 million of taxpayer money to buy a 3,600 square foot condo in New York's Billionaires Row for Tom Clark. It cost taxpayers $7,425 US in taxes and $7,788 in maintenance fees per month. $15,000 a month in maintenance fees? That's a lot of money. Tom Clark retired from Global News in 2017, shortly after Trudeau came into power. He is now Canada's Consul General in New York. Welcome to communism. I can't wait till Andrew Lawton's the Consul General in New York. Because he helped Pierre Poilievre, right? I'm just kidding. Here is concerned citizen. Here's King Charles. King Charles is chiefly concerned with creating wealth, he says. King Charles has the audacity to sit there talking about the cost of living, wearing his diamond-encrusted throne against his gold-plated everything backdrop. Here we go.
The country move on from the recent cost of living challenges by prioritizing wealth creation for all communities. The country move on.
Wealth creation. Also, I'd like everybody to mine some gold, and we'd like to cast another couple of thrones, just because these seem a little old. Lawrence says, King's speech went well. Welcome to total ideological state control of your entire lives. These people are more radical than you could possibly imagine. Yeah, this is Justin Trudeau, but with a crown, basically. It's not good. The world has gone mad. Trudeau cabinet to meet Friday as speculation around a shuffle swirls. Will Trudeau eloquently throw Freeland under the bus? Will Freeland leave or will she become a backbencher? That'd be so funny if Freeland loses deputy prime minister and finance minister, and then she doesn't even get shuffled to Indian affairs. Jody Wilson-Raybould, right? So, and that was insulting, right? Come on, you're an Indian, Jody Wilson-Raybould. First Nations? Can't say that. You can't say that. So, cabinet shuffle coming? We'll see. Will Twitchy McTwitchalot get shuffled out of cabinet and insulted? If she gets shuffled out of cabinet, will she leave entirely? I don't think so, because she seems to be Justin Trudeau's handler, and she seems to be the heir apparent to the Liberal Party. She seems to be the next leader, like Kamala Harris, right? So that's interesting. Justin Trudeau's out campaigning. It was a perfect July night, he says, to go door knocking in Kitchener with Tim Blah. You meet so many people in so many different ways on this job. Hard to beat conversations like this with people in their neighborhood, just sharing what's on their mind. Why aren't people upset about Chinese traders in our government and the Chinese traders walking around pretending like there aren't Chinese traders? Pierre Poilievre is proposing exactly this policy, which Justin Trudeau is rolling out now, and it all leads to living in high-density slums, and that's not good. Justin Trudeau says, here's the deal. We put money on the table to help cities build more public transit with a catch. To get that funding, cities have to change their bylaws to unlock more apartments and homes near transit. Condos aren't homes, apartments aren't homes. All of those things don't count. I want houses built, single family homes on probably like a half acre of land, enough to have a greenhouse, because it seems like they desperately want to starve us, and they want to tell us that we can't possibly feed ourselves because of climate change. That's the goal. Anyway, I find it interesting that Justin Trudeau is leaning right in to exactly the same plan that Mr. Poilievre proposed, right? Globalists continue to be globalists. Blacklock's reporter says Chrystia Freeland calls herself a regular working mom who happens to be the first woman finance minister in Canada who knows what it's like to pump your breast milk. Problem, she isn't. And she probably didn't pump her own breast. I can't believe that she breastfed. Come on, Chrystia Freeland. I'm just skeptical because of the formula that was available, and she seems like a feminist working mom type, right? It doesn't seem like she's the kind of virtue signal about pumping her breast milk, right? It's a little weird. And her base, I feel like her base don't associate with that too much. So, National Post is reporting pro-Beijing group claims credit for helping Olivia Chow to win the Toronto mayoralty or mayorship. She says she was unaware. I was totally blindsided by all of the Chinese help I received. Just had no idea. Lucky me, I guess. Right? Here's Stephen Gelbo saying climate change 1980 to 2060, and then after that, it's fine. Everything's fine. We'll tackle it and move on, just like the ozone layer. Ridiculous.
Probably by 2060, more or less. So 1987 to 2060. That's the time. That's the kind of time frame we're looking at to tackle an issue like climate change.
They're getting desperate, right? They're not buying it. Should we tell them there's an end date? Yeah, tell them there's an end date. It's definitely going to finish soon. Not after they're all dead, but like it's going to finish soon. Right. Kind of dead. I'm sure I'll get to 79. I'm sure I will. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow says, they're calling climate change an existential threat, like a threat to humanity. And now he's like, oh yeah, done in 2060. No problem. Everything's fine. Sure. Here's Olivia Chow blaming driveways for the flood. It's the driveway's fault.
I do want to talk a bit about climate change. It's real.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the tooth fairy first. She's real. Second.
Expecting sort of almost doubling the number of severe rainstorm days in 15 years. So we have to redouble our efforts.
The rainstorm metric is very, very, obvious climate change. Have you not seen the rainstorm day metric? It's doubled in 15 years, according to Olivia Chow.
To have mitigating actions. Because we have to do more prevention work.
If I was lost in a forest and she showed up to rescue me, and this was the kind of leadership she displayed, I wouldn't follow her. I'd be like, listen, lady, get in line like everybody else. You seem as lost as we are. Here's Jim, and he says, Toronto has had flooding every summer for 100 years. The sewer system is a ticking time bomb that will take tens of billions of dollars to repair. Nothing to do with climate change. You know all that money they spent on changing the name of Danforth Square? Was it Danforth Square? Damn, I've got the name thing wrong. Hold on. Danforth is not the square. Dundas Square, Yonge and Dundas Square. So I know the Sankofa thing. Ridiculous. Doesn't mean anything. Anyway, all of that renaming cost a lot of money. And instead of spending that on renaming anything, they could have spent that money on infrastructure, but they didn't because they're traitors, because they hate Canada and they want to see a communist new country emerge out of the ashes of this country. That's what they want. James says, meanwhile, in Italy bans ground-mounted solar panels on agricultural land. Ed Miliband, take note, he's one of the guys who was elevated with this latest UK election. He's like their climate change czar or whatever it is. And so Italy's banning the ground-mounted solar panels on agricultural land, which was a sticking point for people in the UK. James again says, local residents opposed a 2,500-acre solar farm are shell-shocked after the plan was approved by Ed Miliband. The scheme takes some of the most productive land in the UK for use while ignoring alternatives such as commercial roof space. And Lisa says it's a plan to reduce farmland and reduce the food supply while using the green agenda as the excuse. Yes. It's a justification. They wanted to do this anyway. They wanted to remove the agricultural land. How do they do that? This bullshit justification for saving people from climate change and powering our homes. It's bullshit. The Biden administration is making an enemy of Elon Musk. Wouldn't he have been a great VP pick? Here's Elon Musk. I don't know what's up with the scarf. Maybe this was during masking. This is masking days, and he's like, this is the mask that he was wearing. Which again, like he's supposed to be a smart man, right? Like he's supposed to be smart. Did you not read anything about this?
You know, like Biden held this EV summit. Didn't invite Tesla. Invited GM, Ford, Chrysler, and UAW, an EV summit on the White House. Didn't mention Tesla once and praised GM and Ford for leading the EV revolution.
So you were pissed.
Does this sound maybe a little biased or something? It's not the friendliest administration.
Yeah, so they're trying to take down Tesla. And that's all part of the plan because Elon Musk has ideologically signaled that he's not on board with the globalists. So they take him down. Right? It's apparently fashionable right now on Reddit to hate on Tesla, right? So whereas before they could do no wrong because they're an EV company and so on and so forth. Elon Musk was a popular guy. Now the opposite, right? Pretty wild stuff. And climate change, of course. Yesterday I told you all the flooding in Toronto was going to be blamed on climate change. It's not climate change, by the way. It's infrastructure spending that got ignored for virtue signaling. However, here is Justin Trudeau doubling down, right? Making political hay on this.
Our thanks go out to all the first responders who stepped up, the city workers who are there, the hydro workers who continue to work to try and reestablish power for those who lost it. It was a significant event, and I want you to know that we're all there to work together to make sure that not just people get supported through this, but that this happens more and more infrequently in the coming years. The reality is, though, that with climate change, there are going to be more extreme weather events. So we need to continue to step up in our fight against climate change. We also need to continue to be making investments in resilient infrastructure that can handle what the future is holding. We know over the past number of years, we've made about a dozen investments in flood resilient infrastructure and various
didn't do a very good job, did it?
Measures from the federal side onto the City of Toronto, and we're going to continue to be there.
You're going to continue doing ineffective things so that when it rains, it floods like that, like it just did after you spent all the money? Moron. Honestly. Here is Mocha, and he says the Khalistanis have now raised the United Nations flag and set up a porta potty on the Indian flag as they plan to camp overnight in front of the Indian consulate in Vancouver. Canada accused India of behind-the-scenes assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar last year. So this is like weird. Why are we tolerating all of this? This is absolutely insane, right? Like you can't do this. If this was truckers and this was Canadian flags and Justin Trudeau in here, you'd have police, right? You'd have people who are saying you can't do that. That's wrong. But we can do this and incite India like this, or some Indian Khalistanis can do this and incite India like this in Canada, and Canada doesn't do a damn thing. Weird. There are laws that prevent this, but not happening, right? You can see the police in the background as well at the beginning of the video. It seems like they don't care, right? Like they're there. So crazy stuff. And we'll finish today's show. It's actually less long than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot longer. The end of the show today is about justice, and our justice system is screwed. Our justice system is absolutely a travesty. It is being used to crack down on guys from Coots and Pat King, people who are trying to fight for freedom and the ability to say what you want, right? And be free and be free of mandated injections and things like that. And while the Pat King trial is on and Right Blend is watching there, he says Pat King's defense lawyer gives the defense opening statement. It's the Crown's burden to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. She says that the defense has the right to remain silent, but in this case, silence would be deafening. She said defense will present evidence that proves there was no mischief or counseling. Defense argues context is key. So Pat King had a right to protest, and court has not been given the full picture. So that's an interesting thread. It's beyond the scope of today's show, but it's interesting and it's going on. And Pat King's trial is ongoing, and so check it out if you're interested. Link is in the description. Excuse me. And here is Jason Levine, and he says major Coots update from yesterday. Jacqueline Martin, who's the wife of one of the original Coots 4, and she gave her version of what happened. And prosecutor Stephen Johnson is scrambling. The testimony is not complete yet. However, it's clear that the Crown presented incorrect information to the jury. Jerry Morin is also present. The buzz is very high. Stay tuned. So it seems like there's going to be movement here. But again, like we'll see. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if there will be any kind of satisfaction. Our justice system has been corrupted. Everything has been corrupted. They're not interested in honesty. They're not interested in justice. They're not interested in fixing the problems. They're interested in distracting you with a bullshit side story, right? Were there one shooter or two shooters? Did this happen or that happen? We'll argue about it for a whole long time while you forget that people in the Secret Service coordinated and conspired to kill a president, right? It's a distraction, and it's the same method. It's the same foundation. It's the same blueprint every time, like whether it's in Canada or in the United States talking about Trump assassination, or in Canada talking about COVID, or in Canada talking about a protest, whatever it is, there's some kind of thing to wedge. People go onto one side of it or another. It's tangential to the event. Like it seems like it matters. It seems like it's an important event detail. And there's one side that says X and another side that says Y, and the X and the Y fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. And it seems really important. And then ultimately the main thing kind of just slips away in the fight and nobody wins. And then the next agitator is introduced. The next wedge is introduced. The people are wedged. They quietly take down their Ukrainian flags and put up the new flag, and we've just been flipped like an omelet, right? And all that outrage, it needs an outlet sometimes. It needs to go somewhere. It needs to have an impact, right? And that's the firing of the Home Depot lady, right? The collective, everyone wanted somebody fired. And they're not going to fire that Secret Service woman, right? So they're going to fire somebody else. And they do this in Canada too. We're going to shuffle the cabinet. We're getting Chrystia Freeland out of there. It's not going to fix anything. It's just going to give us something to talk about while they continue their criminality. And we're not talking about their criminality. We're talking about this distraction. And that's how we keep getting bamboozled. And nobody's interested in talking about the bamboozle. Nobody's interested in talking about the Chinese traders. Nobody's talking about the economic disaster that's been unleashed by this government. Nobody's talking about the lies, the corruption, everything. And some people are talking about that a little bit, but it seems the way they talk about it is to distract and not to actually fix the problem. And that's very, very frustrating. That's enough of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.